what we did in the lead up to Food Vision was we wanted to bring some innovative food companies along to the conference for the chance to be able to meet with you, to pitch to you, and to learn from you. In the process, we ran a competition. We had companies from across Europe applying for that, and then through a selection process, we got down to the 3 companies that you see here today. And what I want to do with this panel is we'll open it up to the floor for questions, but I really want to use this as a time to understand who these startups are, what's been their startup journey, and also how can we be working with them as well. So why don't we kick off with David. If you can start just by telling us about who you are, your startup journey, and a bit about your company as well.
Okay, can I stand? Can I?
Yeah.
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm David from Nutrifizz. We have created and are now selling the world's first effervescent wheatgrass tablet. It's quite daunting when you come to an event like this, you're brand new to the industry and you're a startup. You're surrounded by so many of your peers and they're trying your product for the first time. So thank you to so many of you for trying it. I see a lot of empty glasses, so that's really encouraging. Now, wheatgrass, we chose wheatgrass because we feel, contrary to what Andrew at Agena said regarding moringa, we feel that wheatgrass is the most densely nutritious plant on the planet Earth. It's very popular in the Western world, especially over in the US and Canada, where I first came across it. Basically, you just add water, and Nutrifizz delivers organic wheatgrass in a delicious and refreshing drink for energy, immune support, general wellness, healthy skin, hair and nails, and vitality. So my journey began back in 2007 when I was living in Canada. I come from a financial background. I've never done anything in the food and drink industry, so it was all completely new to me. I started discovering wheatgrass because everybody was taking these shots, and every time they took a shot, so many people were taking it, but their faces are screwing up and they're like, oh, it's disgusting. And you're like, why are you taking this? And there's all these claims flying around. There's lots of information out there and people saying, oh, you know, it cures cancer and it'll cure this disease and this disease. And you start wondering, hang on, is there any truth in this? So that was kind of my discovery journey, how it began. Now, I'm a firm believer, and I know it's been mentioned over the last couple of days regarding being proactive rather than reactive to illness and disease. And whilst I don't believe any of the reports that wheatgrass is like a miracle cure for serious illness or disease, I do think that if the body is better equipped and very nourished to handle like the potential and to eradicate free radicals, for example, then you can fight off illness and disease, and it can be preventative towards those illnesses. So I started taking wheatgrass just on the basis of it is full of nutrition. It's full of vitamins and minerals, but it's also full of phytonutrients, which are basically plant-based nutrients. I'm sure a lot of you know various ones. And there's now more and more research coming out to suggest, like for example, plant sterols and stanol esters can reduce cholesterol, they can regulate blood pressure. So I was taking wheatgrass regularly, and then one day, a couple of years ago, my wife, she takes the effervescent vitamin C tablets. I knew people were disgusted by the taste of wheatgrass, but it was becoming more and more popular. So I decided to see if there was a more convenient way to take it and a way to make it taste better. So I had a look, inspired by what my wife was taking. I had a look online to see if there was an effervescent format, and there wasn't. So it's very convenient. It's a growing market in the supplement industry, which is worth $3 billion worldwide. And I just decided to do a Google search. Within the space of half an hour from sitting on the couch watching a random TV program to half an hour later, I had found 4 companies across Europe that make effervescent tablets. So I emailed each one of them. 2 came back and said, nope, it can't be done. You can't put such a moist, densely nutritious plant into that format. Another one came back and said, we can do it for 50 grand. I was actually bankrupt at the time, so 50 grand was out of the question. That was from a previous failed business in the financial industry, so that was also led to quite a tough journey to get here. And then another company called me up and said, we're really curious because nobody's done it, but we think it should be done, so we're going to do it for free. We're going to do the research and development for free. You'll be hearing from us. And I thought to myself, come on, there's nothing free in this world. But funnily enough, 2 months later, I receive a package in the post with 2 white tubes, and all there was a phone number. So I called them up and I said, what have you guys done? Oh, we did it. Now what do you want to do? So basically just a 5-minute idea suddenly turned into my entry into the food and drink industry. And I've come across a lot of challenges. I paid my way to get through the very initial stages through winning like pitching competitions and going into a business incubator. Raising investment when you're bankrupt is also a very difficult process. There's so much to think about. I mean, my journey it's just been so much discovery regarding regulations, regarding compliance, regarding health claims. I've been really interested over the last couple of days to hear different viewpoints there's such a wealth of knowledge in this room. Greg Paul yesterday, when he said that, health claims can actually limit your market, because they're taking up real estate on your packaging, that blew me away, because all I was thinking was, I want to get these health claims out to people and make it, more impactful, more positive. But actually, you can be limiting your market to only those people that are affected by that health claim. And I would have thought that that would be a driver for a buying decision, for the consumer would be driven by something like that, but apparently not. So I've learned a whole bunch of new things. So now we're in Asda with a kids version. We're stocked in Holland and Barrett nationwide, and we're launching across the US this year. We've found our first distributor in the US. Another problem has been, again, the new types of regulations with the FDA. So we've opted to find a manufacturer in the US, so that's involved raising more investment. And that brings me on to kind of my final point about working with large organizations and how startups such as myself can really benefit from working together. Large organizations have such expansive networks nationwide. They have the ability to do market research, to study consumer trends. As a startup, you're limited to things like Google searches, Mintel reports, and just very broad information, whereas large organizations that have such a breadth of companies and breadth of knowledge can really knuckle down. They benefit from the resources, the manpower, and that's something that, although as a startup you can be very flexible, you just don't have access to those kinds of resources. The money's tight, you're bootstrapping everything, you're doing your sampling, you're validating your market, but sometimes there just aren't enough hours in the day. So I have to say a lot of respect to the Unilever Foundry. One of the final points I wanted to touch on, when you were going through the 4-stage process, when I was in a business incubator, one of the main things they focused on was fail cheap and fail fast. And then I know you talked about, you would kill it, but it's what we've learned to do is pivot. And that comes again with the flexibility that a startup allows, a startup affords. And that is something that I think that large organizations can benefit from learning more about. So that's been my journey, and thank you very much again for enjoying some of my NutriFizz. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, David. Laurent, let's take us through your journey.
So we all know it, life is not a relaxing ride down the river. We spend our days with 1,000 ideas in our head, stressed out, trying to give everything we have, but we just don't seem to have enough time. Who among you has already experienced such a stress because of the incredibly long to-do list or because of the short deadlines we have? Raise your hands. Okay. So see a lot of hands. I'm not the only one in this case. Good. So in the beginning, Zendo was a meeting of 2 longtime friends, Matthew, here present, and myself. We were living a quite peaceful life in a country in the middle of Europe until we decided to become entrepreneurs. And to be honest, since then, our life has been quite rough. And we had a common dream. So a few months ago, we decided to quit our stressful job to create what we needed the most and couldn't find. That is the first anti-stress beverage in Europe. Zendo is a drink that eliminates the excessive nervous tension to allow you to stay focused on what you do. So basically, it's a little bit like the opposite of the energy drink. When you're tired, you need a Red Bull energy drink or coffee to boost you up to reach your optimal level of performance. But when you're too stressed because, for example, you have like a presentation in front of 130 people, well, we didn't have anything to calm us down. So today there's Zendo, which will calm you down and bring you back to your optimal level of performance. And Zendo is a beverage that with a real effect because we carefully selected each ingredient in collaboration with 2 laboratories specialized in food development. We first put L-theanine, which is an amino acid present in the green tea leaves, and according to many studies, it induces a calm and alert state. We have then put Passiflora, a herb known for its relaxing properties. And finally, we've put magnesium and B vitamins. Magnesium, a natural stress reliever, and also the active principle of chocolate. When you feel good, when you eat a piece of chocolate, it's certainly because it tastes good, but it's also because it's magnesium. And the formula of Zendo has also been validated by the head of the department in nutrition of the Clinique de l'Europe, which is a pretty large hospital in Belgium, and also by the SIN, which is the Scientific Institute for Intelligent Nutrition. And finally, Zendo is 100% natural. It has no artificial colorings, no artificial flavorings, and no preservatives. And it only contains 19 kilocalories per 100 milliliter. So to consume without any moderation. Thank you for your attention.
Good. And how many of these did you have this morning?
Well, actually, we just launched the first production batch, so it's arriving next week.
Okay.
So I couldn't have it, unfortunately.
Very cool. I need some of those as well, as my team would tell you. So let's have a look at Damien, who's doing an amazing job of creating.
Sure. My name is Damien. I'm co-founder of Weihe. Our first product is the world's first sugar-free, high-protein ice cream. I'm from a sports background. I was a physiologist and worked with Premier League football clubs, Olympic athletes. My mum's got type 2 diabetes. Went home one weekend to Cork and she was eating a frozen yogurt made by a pretty large food company. We won't name them. But thinking, oh, it's low fat, it's low calorie, it must be good for me. And I just said, you know what, if these guys are going to keep pushing this type of product, we're going to do it ourselves. So we bought an ice cream machine on eBay, brought it back to my flat in London, rang Mike Hyron at Volac and said, Mike, can you send us some protein? We've got this crazy idea. And he did. So I'm not sure if you're aware of London, but I live in Brixton, which is like a pretty rough area, and we had this massive bag of white powder delivered to the flat. So immediately everyone thought I was a drug dealer. We'd ice cream machines whizzing in the flat. Made our first product 100% natural, bought a mobile freezer unit, and walked up and down central London selling into independent stores and gyms. Everywhere we went, they were like, my God, this is incredible. This must be an American product. Like, no, we're actually down the road. Do you fancy stocking it? I said, yeah, absolutely, but we don't have any freezers. And we were like, oh, shit, we forgot the freezer issue. None of these places have freezers. So then it was, how do we source freezers? Massive learning curve, and we talked about pivoting. We rang a German manufacturer of freezers and said, look, trust us, mate, we're going to be the next Red Bull brand. We're going to be massive. Can you give us 60 freezers on credit? And the guy was, no, laughing. So keep pestering, please. Trust me, we're going to be massive here. Get it at the ground. He gave us 30 freezers on 30 days credit. So then myself and Greg knew we had 30 days to sell these freezers to stores or else we were out of business. And we did it. And everywhere it went, it became a best-selling product in London. We won listings with Holland & Barrett very quickly. GNC, Whole Foods Market, as nature intended. And then it was trying to create volume, so we'd requests from retailers all over Europe and the US. So we launched into Finland. We were just after launching in London, and then we were launching in Finland, Helsinki. So we're in most of the supermarkets in Finland, just started in Sweden. Tesco goes live this month in the UK. We just started our first hospital contract, so we're on NHS hospital wards on haematology and oncology units because of the protein content and the sugar-free option. We're in schools because of the whole sugar issue and diabetes epidemic coming down the road. We're exploding. We're experiencing triple-digit growth year on year since we started, and huge opportunities. And just really thank you for having us here. That's
fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, David. One of the things that continues to inspire me every time I work with startups and hear them pitch is the resourcefulness, how far they can get with how little. We heard about from Andrew how he wants to create a solution to, enable €1 billion of sourcing of product from Africa from his kitchen with no money. And I think you see some great examples of resourcefulness here as well. Can you talk through, maybe Laurent, we'll start with you. Can can you talk through how far you got without any funding, and then how you did get funding and where you are at now?
Yeah, sure. So at first, Matthew and I talked about the idea, and we saw that there was a market gap. There was no anti-stress beverage in Europe. So we started to analyze the market. Does it exist internationally? Not really. A little bit in the United States, so it started to boom. So we started to do a lot of research, and then we were looking for all the subsidies that we could get. So the first thing we did was working the pitch, because that was the most important thing. We had to know how to convince those people to give us money to create a product. So we got the subsidies. With this subsidy, we worked on the formula of Zendo. We had enough money to fund this. After that, the money was quite quickly gone, so we need to do a first investment round. We raised money with, we want to raise money, but we also want to attract expertise. So our lawyer, business lawyer, invested in the company. So he specialized in intellectual property and business law. Our graphic designer invested, and 2 other business angels. So now we had money and expertise. This allowed us to do a first prototype. And then with this prototype, we were ready to do a crowdfunding campaign. We could have done the crowdfunding campaign earlier. We already had signed the contract. We were like, we don't have a final product yet. If we go to the crowdfunding with just an idea, a paper idea, we were pretty sure it was going to fail. So with the first investment round, created a prototype, did a second investment round, crowdfunding, through which we succeeded to raise 225,000 euros in just 2 weeks with more than 130 investors. This is going to allow us to live until June, July, and then over the summer we're going to do a third investment round to then really launch a large communication campaign.
Amazing, amazing. And so in terms of equity, you basically are still sitting on all the equity.
Yeah, well, it was always they took some equity during the 2 investment rounds. So again, like that was we give a value of the company, and then it's do you believe in the project? Do you believe like the project is the valorization of the product is that much? And it's more like trading, and we did lose equity, but I think it was a fair deal for both parties every time.
Yeah, great. David, do you want to talk about expand a little bit on your journey in terms of how you've got to where you are with the funding you've received?
Quite a similar story to Zendo, actually. It started off, I've just got these tubes, and it was a case of, okay, if I'm going to turn this into a business, you need a bit of seed funding. So I borrowed £5,000 from a friend, and that was really to do both customer validation and then keep going back to the manufacturers and working with them to get the right formulation. So we went through 18 different formulations to get the flavor profile correct. Because of the high mineral content, it can come across very metallic, so there was a lot of work to be done there. And then, again, as you said about pitching, that's one of the most important parts. I was in an incubator, so there were pitching competitions, so a lot of the money there would fund it. And then ultimately I got to a stage where, okay, I need to raise serious investment here, because to do this on any level where I can actually support larger orders, for one thing, I don't have a manufacturing facility where I can churn out that number of tablets. And for another, I don't have the certifications, the hygiene certificates, the good manufacturing processes. So it was all about outsourcing, and with that comes minimum order quantities. So I went through crowdfunding. Again, I sold equity. But for what I got, the money actually came secondary, because when you're raising investment, it was crowdfunding, but it ended up only being 2 individuals. And those 2 individuals have probably brought more in expertise than I would value the money that they put in. They had experience with international products, although not in food and drink. They had experience of the logistics. There were networks there, and again through things in Scotland like Scottish Enterprise, that opened a lot of doors to industry experts, dietitians, nutritionists, doctors, lots of people that I could speak to make sure, okay, looking at just finding enough expertise to validate the product and the market and feel confident that when I take it to the consumer, this is something they can both enjoy, and I feel, you know, ethically and morally correct that it's actually having the benefits that we're claiming that it does. And there have been a lot of lessons learned where I could probably have saved money, but it was probably worth spending the money to learn the lesson and, you know, fail in those small ways sometimes.
Yeah, it's interesting. And Damien?
We didn't really have a clue what we were doing when we started. We just came up with we thought we had a great product, people that we gave the samples to really liked it. So we went all in. I sold my car, I sold everything I essentially owned, moved in with my friend and slept on his floor for 6 months. And I'll never forget, when we got Holland & Barrett on board, we spoke to a manufacturer, like a real big time manufacturer, and he said, look, we've got this product, can you make us some samples? So the guy, we were still working out of the flat, and I was working part-time, and next thing I get a call from my neighbour saying, there's samples of ice cream delivered outside your flat. And it was this bloody Arctic truck delivering like 2 tons of ice cream outside a flat in Brixton. I was like, what the hell are we supposed to do with this? So
Did you have freezers at this point? Or?
We ran over to Curry's, which I shouldn't endorse any brand, but it's a local supermarket, bought chest freezers, filled the kitchen and the flat with chest freezers, rang my friends, we were cutting up the ice cream, dumping it into freezers, giving it to all of the local school kids coming home from school, try some ice cream, and they liked it, so we knew we had a great product at that stage. So when we were raising money, it was like, we have an idea, let's just go for it. You know, what's the worst that can happen? And it's like moving quickly. We didn't go down the route of speaking to local government governing bodies and all this type of stuff, because our thoughts on that at the time, and I'm still a firm believer, and we talk about moving fast. A lot of the government agencies, it just moved, their timelines are just very different to where we are as a business. It's when we ask for information or we need to get stuff done, it's like, yeah, and you get a response in 6, 8, 2, 3 months. It's like, I need it now. And with access and using online, we have that ability to go chase and find the information ourselves. Raising money, we begged, borrowed, and didn't steal, but close enough to stealing, to fund it most of the time.
Amazing. Amazing. The other thing that always impacts me is how startups operate out of a deep sense of purpose, and you saw 2 good examples of that today. But can you also share, like, your bigger purpose and also what that means for you as a company, as an innovation strategy, as a recruitment tool? Can you talk about the significance of purpose from that perspective? Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. This all came from my background as a physiologist and working with elite athletes. And then my parents having type 2 diabetes, brought on by diet. So I just got so frustrated. I go into a supermarket shelf and it's full fat, high sugar ice cream, 40, 50 gram amount of fructose and frozen yogurt, and the messaging on pack is it's low calorie, it's fat free, and people automatically assume that must be good for me. So they're stuffing their face with this stuff. We went to a cinema in the UK and we tried to bring in some healthier alternatives, and the guy in the cinema at the time was like, you can't bring that stuff in, you need to buy what's there. And what's there was Ben & Jerry's and other Unilever brands, and again, lots of sugars. I'm not knocking Unilever, sorry, but it was one of the inspirations. But you know what? We said when we started this business, we want to make sure that we get into audience cinemas. We want our brand sitting next to Ben & Jerry's in audience cinemas. And 6 months ago, we got into audience cinemas, so we're in their top 20 sites, and we outperform most of the other brands in the site. We certainly match one of the best performing ice creams in the world in those sites. We want to change how people eat. We want to change how people perceive health food. It doesn't need to be compromised when you want to eat healthily and look after yourself. And taste is the most important thing for us. I can happily and go buy some. If you're out there, I was going to bring some samples, but I thought we need the cash, so buy some ice cream. I'm happy for people to taste our ice cream alongside any other high street brand ice cream. You know, our taste is supreme. It tastes like a premium ice cream, and with 20 grams of protein and sugar-free, it's phenomenal. So we're changing the world and how they eat. And
at the moment, you're in ice cream.
We've got innovation coming out this year in ambient products. We see Way Hey as a platform brand. So in the next 4 or 5 10 years, we're going to walk in, you're going to see Weihe in the freezer, in the chiller aisle, and in the grocery aisle, everywhere. We're taking over.
Good to hear. I don't know if I should be clapping to that, but yeah, let's go for it. Let's go with David.
How do I follow that? So, I mean, it's quite similar, actually. I mean, our values are really about delicious, convenient nutrition because, especially for myself, I often find it difficult to eat healthily on a regular basis and get all the nutrition that I need. So it was all about making something that is highly nutritious, making it very convenient and accessible. One of the main consumer groups that we sell to now is the sports industry. So you guys, like the sports sachets that you've got, they only came back from the printers a week ago. So this is the first outing of those, and that's just because that's by noticing, okay, the biggest benefits here are actually athletes who are looking for recovery both during and post-exercise. Another area we're looking into, we've just started supplying countries in East Africa. It's been mentioned here as well yesterday, I believe. A lot of people suffering from dysphagia due to illnesses. So it's about how to get nutrition into people who are struggling to swallow through illness or disease. So we've actually cut our margins quite substantially to be able to supply that because it is one of our values that it is all about providing nutrition and getting that nourishment into people on a grander scale and the people that really need it, who basically lack maybe 1, 2 or many, many more vitamins or minerals for whatever reason. So that's why we do what we do.
Excellent. And we'll go to Lauren, but right after Lauren, I'm going to open it up to questions from the floor. So start to think about questions you might have as well.
So basically, us, like the idea we had is that Matthew and I, we were both working like in a pretty stressful environment. We were often put under pressure, and we were like, damn, like we have this presentation or we have this interview with this guy. We're stressed, but we didn't have a solution. We didn't have time to do sports before the meeting. We didn't have a little tea bag chamomile to relax in the car. We didn't want to take a pill because like we feel sick. I didn't want to look sick if I take a pill, you know. So like, okay, we're missing something. And that's why we are now as a market. On the market, it's only sodas, fruit juices, and energy drinks. And like, but there's no calming drink. I mean, we really realize there's a market gap, and we believe there is a demand for this. So the idea came from there, and that's why we created this beverage. Now we know that we are creating a new segment. We're opening a new segment, the anti-stress beverage segment. So today you have 3 types of functional segments. You have the sports drink, you have the energy drinks, and today you have the calming anti-stress beverages. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, well, let's go to the floor for questions. And obviously, as you ask questions, if you can just introduce yourself as well.
Good morning. Thank you very much for presenting your stories. This is very fascinating. I have a question for the 3 of you because you're proposing something that is new for the market and you're proposing something that have health benefits. In a way, do you also see your company engaged in explaining what are those health benefits? David, you were saying that you wanted to put claims to explain what is the purpose of your product, but do you want to actually explain what is wheatgrass, what is nutrition, and put in perspective what would be your product within a normal diet? Do you want to explain? Do you see your mission as explaining to consumer, or do you want to just put it there available? How do you see as well your role in the health market?
Greg Paul yesterday made a comment. He said, when a consumer looks at a product, you want to take them from I don't know to I don't have to worry about it. And I think that's where people didn't want to be patronizing to the consumer, but there is a need to educate, especially when you're innovating and you're creating new products. Because it never existed, there isn't a market readily made for you. So you are trying to do something that is healthy and good, but at the same time, you don't want to overload a new target market with too much information. So whilst you do want to get that message across as much as possible, there is the danger of, you're just telling too much. And it's almost like along the lines of people are reading the ingredients list, for example, and vitamins and minerals, you know, they have really long chemical names, and it's that perception of, oh, my risk profile, the risk profile of this to me has risen because I perceive that term or name that I don't understand as being risky to me, so I might be put off. So whilst, yes, you do want to start communicating more with your customer and try and reach them, we've found it easier to actually sit alongside maybe other multivitamin supplements on one side and traditional wheatgrass powders or drinks on the other, and just allow the consumer to say, okay, what are the benefits versus the pros and cons of taking this one over this one? And that's where the USPs and the convenience come in and the taste comes in for us. I know Damien talked a lot about the taste as well. That's been something very important for us. So it's really just about keeping the information as simple as possible, not overloading them, and saying, okay, if we put one type of wheatgrass product next to Nutrifizz, it's up to you. Do you want the convenience and the great taste, or do you want the other one that might be more expensive? If we put it next to a multivitamin, even a sports effervescent supplement, do you want the one that has 4 minerals in it, or do you want the one with 20 vitamins and minerals in it at the same price and it tastes better? So it's really just, we have to just leave a certain element up to the consumer and say, right, we trust you to make your own choice and not push too much information on them.
Laurent, I'm interested in your perspective on this, because you're old creating new categories, really, in a way. But especially you.
Communication, for us, is going to be very, very important, because we're opening a new segment, so people have no idea what's an anti-stress beverage. They have no idea, and we've been brainstorming over this packaging for days, weeks, months, what to put on it. In the end, at some point we were a relaxation drink, but we didn't want to put relaxation drink because when we put relaxation drink, people the main question was, oh, am I going to fall asleep? We're like, no, you're not going to fall asleep. So we kept telling them that, but people, we're not going to be in all the selling points, so people need to understand directly what it's about. So we took away relaxation drink, then we put some focus drink, but then people were like, oh, focus drink, it's another energy drink. I'm like, Jesus, no. It's not an energy drink, it's anti-stress beverage. So in the end, we choose for calm plus focus. And we have to communicate on the fact that it relieves from daily stress and contributes to good focus. And that's what we're trying to communicate through the packaging and through all the advertisement campaign that we're going to do.
Interesting.
I think it was picking and choosing our battles, really, and similar to what Andrew's story earlier about creating a movement. When we developed our packaging or we developed our website, our flavors, we used social media. So we used our consumers to help us build our brand before we were on any shelf. And that's probably, we had the idea, it was immediately, okay, let's put it on social media, get feedback. So our early adopters helped us develop our communication strategy and the touch points they picked up on, which has helped us really be efficient with cash as well. But obviously we play a massive part in communicating health and wellness. We're not just about an ice cream, we're not just about food. We also have blogs online from celebrity trainers and personal trainers, dietitians, chefs, celebrity chefs putting out recipes on how to live a healthier lifestyle. And I think one thing that we've learned that it can't always be about pushing a brand. It's not the brand. We're bigger than that, if that makes sense. We're trying to change people's lives with what we're doing. We're all working together, really.
Yeah.
3 fantastic stories. What stops anyone coming in and copying you? Do you have intellectual property protection for what you've built, or are you relying on the speed of the brand and maybe low margins? How do you stop people coming in and taking what you've created?
Luckily for now, large corporations have been incredibly slow to do things, massively so. I'm not digging you all the time, by the way, but it's good. But the manufacturing process for our ice cream is different to normal ice cream. Don't get me wrong, if Unilever turned around tomorrow and said, right, we're going to spend 5 million quid and launch a high-protein, sugar-free ice cream, they could do it in 6 to 12 months. So it's very much, we want to be over the next 5 years, when somebody thinks of great tasting, nutritious food, they think of Weihe. So it's owning that place in the consumer's mind, which we're doing using social media. So we use Periscope, Snapchat, we hire all of our interns using Snapchat. So our interviews are done online. We use periscopes, we give live feed of the manufacturing process and our ingredients. We give live interactive Q&As with personal trainers and health and wellness. So it's just trying to build a movement. And luckily we're partners with Nike across Europe. So Nike have approached us to be their official nutrition supplier, not a drink, but our ice cream. So we're making a hell of a lot of noise. We're punching very much above our weight. It's just trying to stay ahead of these guys.
What's the competitive advantage, or what's going to be your defense as you move forward?
I think like the advantage we have compared to other companies is the fact that we're a startup, so we react much faster than big corporates. Of course, like at first we were scared to talk about our product. Every time we met someone from Unilever or Coca-Cola, we were like, oh Jesus, But so first of all, we filed everything we could file regarding intellectual property. And then we're trying now, we're more in a perspective of making as much noise as possible and say like we're the first one on the market, the first anti-stress beverage on the market. And we're not too scared that larger companies are going to copy us, because if they're going to do it, we believe it's going to take at least 1 year to do some R&D and all the meetings they have to do. They can't react as fast as we can react. So if they're going 1 year or two, I mean, it's also going to be good, because they're also going to help us to create this new segment, and we will have 2 years in advance compared to those larger corporates.
Just if I can add one thing as well, I think that this is a story that as entrepreneurs and startups we always tell ourselves, the big guys move slowly and we're going to get there. But the reality is the business of our size is the niche that we're targeting right now is of no interest essentially to the massive, the likes of General Mills and the big ice cream companies. So we're a tiny little speck on the horizon right now, and we're hoping that with volume over the next couple of years we'll be in a much stronger position.
Yeah, like as Damien said, like we aim small. Well, that's what you said earlier on your slide. Start small, think big, and react fast. Well, that's completely true. And so we aim a particular customer segment who are going to be the ambassadors of the brand, of the product, and then slowly we're going to grow to this larger market.
Excellent. And David?
Yeah, what both of these guys said, if you'd asked me that a year ago, I would have said exactly the same thing. You know, large organizations are very slow to move. You know, we're more flexible because we're a startup, and I mean, in all honesty, if a large organization, if they really want to move fast on something, they can do it. But exactly like Damien said, when you're still like a small speck and you're so brand new to the market, you've not established a big enough target market or consumer group that the big organizations are interested in. And yes, by all means, once that target group is large enough, of course they're going to be right in there. But in that time, you've built brand loyalty. Mm-hmm. And again, as a startup, you don't have huge marketing budgets. I mean, for example, I'm up against Barocca Boost all the time. Now, so many people have heard of Barocca. They spend $4 million a year on marketing their supplements. I don't have anything like that, but what I do have are the channels through things like social media, where I can spread through word of mouth. You know, I can appear at like triathlons and marathons and swimming events, you know, and actually meet these people face to face. And although you might only meet maybe 100 or 200 people at a time, you're engaging directly with your customer. They're able to actually speak to the brand directly, and then they can follow that on social media. In terms of IP, you know, obviously as a food and drink product, you can't actually get a patent on the recipe, but what we do have is agreements with our manufacturers where we own our formulas. So because we worked with them, they see themselves as, well, it's not our business to actually go into selling these products, we're contract manufacturers. So they were happy to give me those formulas. So.
One more thing, if I may add something. Another advantage we have towards larger companies is that we can tell a story about a brand. For example, I'll think about Innocent Juice, the three guys from England that went on festival to test their juices. These are like all stories that people like. It might be a little bit harder for larger companies to create such a story. For example, here, your story with your bags of Coke that come right in front of your house.
I don't think it was Coke, was it?
What? No, I mean, those are stories. those are stories that we can tell, and that's all people like, and it's part of the brand.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think what we're seeing is, I mean, these are three great stories here. There's literally thousands outside of this room as well. And as large companies, all the traditional barriers to entry that we've enjoyed, the scale of manufacturing, the scale of media buying, the scale of distributing through retailers, are all being eradicated. All these guys are contract manufacturing. They enjoy pricing, manufacturing pricing similar to what we enjoy. They can buy social media at the same price that we pay for social media. They can range their products in local stores or on Amazon in the same way that we would have to have big relationships to get ranging in Tesco or Walmart, for instance. So all the barriers to entry are coming down. And we have to look at how we partner. So maybe I'll finish with this question. What are the opportunities for partnering? And if you can maybe give it in two perspectives. How can big business help you now? And how can big business help you in 5 or 10 years? Who wants to start?
I think at this stage it is about manpower. I touched on this earlier. It's about resources. When you're starting out, you do need to know, especially you're going into a niche market. So to actually find analytics and data on such a niche area, you need the manpower and the resources of larger organizations who have teams dedicated to that. It's just something that we don't have at this stage. I mean, we're going to go through our next investment round very shortly because we need to increase our manpower to be able to do those things. Now, that's something that we probably could leverage through a partnership with a larger organization. And I think the larger organization can benefit from, I guess, the mindsets of people that are innovating and, the struggles that we've gone through, because, for us, I dare say there's a lot of people in Unilever who work 9 to 5. I don't know about you guys, but that's completely alien probably to us. 9 to 5 just doesn't exist. There's no such thing. It's just there are jobs to do, they need done. And at this stage, when you're at such accelerated growth, those are 16-hour days every single day.
So that's manpower to help on product development, for instance, or other things?
Well, everything, because you're doing so much. You're in charge of the marketing, you're in charge of the finances, you're in charge of the pitching, you're in charge of the brand voice, you're in charge of getting your packaging, your compliance, your product, your sales. You're trying to get in touch with all the retailers and get through the gatekeepers to speak to the right people, or you're not the right person. Who is? Hang up the phone on me. It's just, there's so much to do. I mean, large organizations, first of all, they benefit from economies of scale in terms of speaking to the retailers and speaking to the marketing. And second of all, everybody's heard of Unilever. Very few people have heard of Nutrifizz.
Right.
So it's...
Well, quite a few more now.
Yeah.
Good. Laurent.
Yeah, well, definitely. Working with a larger company would be really beneficial because obviously we would gain visibility. If we have a large group behind us, that would be really helpful. And we will also, those larger companies has also a broad network, distribution network, and they have more power for negotiations. As you said earlier, when we come, nobody has heard about Nutrifizz or about Zendo. So when we come, people don't take us seriously at first. So having a large corporation with us would be very, very helpful. Now, on the other side, the larger companies could benefit from a startup in the sense of, as I said earlier, they would have a story to tell, the storytelling. And they would also have a dynamic team, a dedicated team that would work, that would give everything they have because it's also their brand. So from a motivational point of view, it will be there. Motivation will be there.
Yeah.
Obviously, this scaling, once we prove the concept in a test market, obviously having somebody that can just say, okay, this works here, here's another market, let's try it, and also access to expertise. But outside of that, we've always found that big companies, if you pick up the phone and ask for help, they help. We've rang when we were trying to see, okay, how do we market this product? Okay, what's the most famous ice cream brand in the world? Ben & Jerry's. Let's call somebody at Ben & Jerry's. So we ended up bringing people at Unilever, got through to Ben & Jerry's, spoke to one of the brand managers who now works for us, but she gave us some help. So it's hiring, it's actually selling people the dream all of the time and hiring people out of companies like Unilever if they buy into what you're trying to do. Other than that, R&D and product innovation, obviously you guys have a whole team built into that. Our innovation is, I'm sitting in the bath and I have an idea, I go into the office the next day, try it in the kitchen and develop it. If it works, we test it with friends. But expertise, innovation, and distribution is huge.